only 3 weeks since the last time, actually. We did this, and we're back with Playmaker TV, and we're gonna take advantage of the fact that both me and Jesper work in a very like fun business at the moment, I would say. Although the transfer window in Europe in general is closed, in the Damallsvenskan we can still sign players if we want, but we have to keep an eye on markets in the US and Australia, for example, for that. But I do think that we will take this opportunity to actually show you guys now how you can use Playmaker when you scout players. Right, Jesper?
Yeah, so we're gonna start with a case, and then maybe we'll look into some other exceptions or just in general, but we'll have a bit of a live case here today. So it will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and this is going to be very exciting, actually, because some of the work we are going to do here on this live stream is actually we'll be doing it like right now. It's not like we discussed last time about the fact that some of it are prepared. So this is how you actually use Playmaker AI and the platform to scout players, because we discussed this a bit before. The Swedish season hasn't started. It's still an exciting time for Swedish players, especially if they play in your team and your club, Jesper, because BK Häcken is in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and they are going to go up against PSG. And how do you feel about that?
Proud of the team and the players and leaders, staff. A great job, a really astonishing and impressive group stage, and it's going to be really fun. Like I mean, it's been a lot to win from the start in the group stage, but now in the playoff, it's 2 games per round in the quarterfinal, semifinal, and then the 1 game final. But nothing to lose. So yeah, really interesting.
So now PSG have everything to lose, and BK Häcken has everything to win. And
yeah,
I mean, the last time we did record was that was in the absolute end of the European window, and we actually discussed a little bit on how we could show how Playmaker is can be your help during the transfer window when you are going to scout for players in certain positions. And since we actually we want to look at the 3 top teams in the Women's Super League at the moment. We're going to start with Chelsea, then go to Manchester City and Arsenal, on how their center backs looks in the scouting platform. But since we know that Chelsea did sign a Swede in the back line this window, Natalie Björn, we could only speculate they brought her in because there has been some speculations about, okay, was it because Millie Bright was injured? Was it because Annick Nowen's ACL tore? A couple of, I think actually that's been some months back, but we can only speculate about that. But what we can look in Playmaker AI's platform now is what type of player will have Chelsea signed with Natalie Björn, and could she be a replacement for Millie Bright while being away, or will she cement herself in the starting 11 from now on?
Very interesting. And also it's going to be fun to show like this in the platform, more of a practical approach. I mean, that's maybe what we try to do all episodes, but now it will be really hands-on, and we get to pretend to be Chelsea scouts here.
Exactly, which is kind of fun to just dig into that thought. But it's also interesting because now, if you look at the top teams in England on how they use their centre backs, we're also gonna compare Chelsea's centre backs to Arsenal's and Manchester City's centre backs.
Yeah, sadly, not Manchester United's.
No, they're not top three actually. I know. We have to limit ourselves somewhere.
Yeah, and what would you say in general about Chelsea this year? How good are they compared to other years? I mean, they haven't lost many points in this season overall.
I think, to me, I know I've said this many times before, but to me now, this is Chelsea's year to win the Champions League. When you look at the squad, I know that they have injuries now, but all team have injuries at this level. You look at Barcelona and then Mapi Leon. I mean, speaking of centre backs being away of injuries, but I do think that from looking at how Chelsea have been managed and how they have recruited the last couple of years, I feel that they are in a very good place right now to do everything that they want to achieve, not only domestically but also internationally.
I agree. Yeah, interesting to follow for the Champions League, but also the Women's Super League, and especially now since Chelsea lost points this weekend, so makes it even more tight in the top of the table. So okay, I'm gonna share my screen here, and I'm gonna go into Playmaker AI. Can you see my my webpage here?
I can.
I think I'll do full screen here. So we talked about Millie Bright. I chose to not prepare much, but I still chose to chose to prepare last season, so we could go straight into Millie Bright season. Then I can also show kind of a new feature to Playmaker since last time we recorded. So when you generate your data set here sometimes when I generate a data set, I do it only to look at one player, really. And and I forget that I already have one, and so on. And then instead of going to the dashboard, opening it up and using the spider, if I only want the spider for kind of an overview to start with, I can generate my data set, and then when it's ready, I can press on the eye here, and then I get a spider. So this is also because Spider is the most used widget on the platform. So we have a lot of other platforms, but Spider is by far the most used by our customers. So we spare them some time by doing this. So if we then go to Millie Bright, we can see her spider here. And I know that she usually is the avatar physical defender, the player role physical defender, although she has more skills than that, but that's what she is categorized as. We can also see it somewhat in the spider by looking at where she stands out compared to other center backs in the Women's Super League last season. And I chose last season because she only played 6 games, so I still feel like the spider was a bit characteristic, but this is more representing Millie Bright since she played more games last season and she's been injured this year. So,
but it's a nice spider.
Yeah, it's a really nice spider. So one thing that I would have as a somewhat of a starter is that I would use this. Now I accidentally pressed the button. Sorry. I was gonna do a photograph so I could remember this. So I would use these KPIs in order to search for her replacements. So we can see that she's very good in expected threat prevented, aerials per 90, aerial percentage, challenges, clearances, all defensive metrics. This is also the center back preset that I'm showing here. So this the KPIs that statistically center backs usually are good at. Progressive pass percentage, which is or wait a minute. I'm gonna create a data set and then I'm gonna talk about it. Since we're gonna have to wait, I think we can go back to this and I can talk about it while it loads. So okay, I want to make a new data set. We want to look at different leagues here. So I'm gonna realistically, maybe it's the best to I don't know what you say, Mia, but like within the Women's Super League or maybe the NWSL and in France. Maybe that's the more same league level, but I still think it's kind of interesting to Chelsea is also recruiting for the future, maybe, so we can include Damallsvenskan, Toppserien, and
you can go to Italy as well, I think.
And yeah, we could. Sorry.
This is just Jesper showing off how many women's league Playmaker have at the moment.
Exactly. We choose some like that. We call it center back hunt. Yeah, that sounds good.
We're gonna hunt this.
And then we have some different features here. So we can, I think, initially I want to make it more simple. We could just use the avatar, for example, and we could just look at physical defenders. Now I'm gonna make it more talking about the player roles. I will make it more pedagogical here. I will not filter for the avatar. I would maybe do it myself, but instead I would I would just I would start off with the center back preset, but then I will now we don't have it up here on the image, but I will look at Millie Bright's characteristics and look at what she's good at herself. So I want the aerials, but I also want the success rate, because she has a very high success rate. So I want to look at that as well. Carry prog is not something that she's absolute top, but she's way above average. So it's a nice feature. Someone can be better than that. Clearances and challenges. I will of course use that as well. Then I would look at final third entries. It could be in these circumstances she's not that progressive that she's intercepting a lot of passes, so I will not include that. That's not one of her best metrics. It's you could include it, but I will just skip it here because I'm looking for someone that's similar to her. Then we can look at how many passes in general and what passing accuracy do you have. So I'll use these two that are in the center back, because she's used to having a lot of ball and also having a decent accuracy, or you could say also playing it in somewhat how safe she is, how much risk she takes. That I also read from that metric. So I'll include it. I also include how progressive in distance she is, and how much you play the ball forward. And then I'll add the prevented defensive metric for how you prevent the opponent from generating threat, and I'll also include expected threat per 90 here. So what I also want,
we could also add here now that all these KPIs you are able to choose from that. I know we talked about it before, but you have a lot of KPIs to choose from. when it comes to scouting or analyzing in general. And we said it the last time that if you want to have an explanation to every KPI, you just hang over like that with your computer mouse, and then you will have the explanation, which is very helpful, I think.
Yeah, we also have like an appendix on the first page, but I think the shortest way is just to hover over here, and if you still don't understand it, like most of them have a very simple explanation because they're usually very understandable as they are, or they don't need a further explanation. And then you have some like explicit threat prevented, for example, that has a bit longer. And if you don't understand that, reach out and we'll try to explain to you or make it better. Maybe it's not good as it is. So, but I adjusted the game to 6. So that's how I started, just to remove the players that haven't played much at all. And now this will load while it's being processed. So that's why I thought that we could like explain the KPIs a bit more. So, shit, I forgot one thing. Sorry. I wanted to use the mean KPI score here.
Yeah.
So I will explain later what it does. Okay. So if we look at Middelbright, what can her spider tell us about her here? So I started to explain them. I don't remember how far I got, so I start from the beginning. But you have, like, she has a very good success rate when it comes to aerials. And success rate for PlaymakerAI is that you either come to a finish or you maintain possession. So like when you're winning a header, it's important not just to win it. It's also important to have like in your mind what you're going to do. So like that's a very good, nice center back skill that I look at when you use data and then complement it with video, that like when the center back is up and doing a header, are they just focusing on winning the header, or are they thinking about address when they're intercepting with the header as well? So like I'm heading it, I'm checking where my teammates are, or if I'm in a position where maybe I don't feel safe heading at someone else, am I like heading away from where if the opponent will win it, they would be able to cause a lot of threats. So like, for example, you're not heading into the center if you're far back, you're heading out. So, and the arrow percentage is like having those things in mind, but it's also like nice to, because I know the video scouts in Häcken, they're looking a lot of that for center backs when we scouted for the men's team center back this winter. And then,
so what you are saying now is that you also look at video of the players.
Yeah, in Häcken we do, yeah. But I would say that my role is not looking at video. My role is providing data and like generating lists, and also what do you say, acting as a filter for all the tips we get. But then we look at a lot of video together, but that's not my role. Like I'm the data scout, and then we have other people their expertise is watching players live and on video. But yeah, and then the same with challenge percentage. So challenge is like all duels, like tackles, sliding tackles, and so on, and like the accuracy of winning them. And that's the same, that you want to like maintain possession when you're winning a duel, not just losing the ball straight away. And then we have the clearances, and clearances is rather when you like intercept like, what do you say, when you're that your clearance is having an address and also finding a teammate. So like it's the same way. And we have the possession adjusted metrics here as well. And possession adjusted, we talked about it before, but it's more of like how to adjust for possession. So Millie Bright's playing with a team that has a high possession, so her aerials will usually in a game be lower than a player that plays in, for example, Bristol City, that is defending a lot. And then if they both have 5 tackles in a game, but Chelsea have 75% possession, Bristol 25, Millie Bright's aerials will go up, and the Bristol City defenders, they will go down. So it's kind of like generating a frequency, considering how much you have the opportunity to do the action. And we have the same for the offensive, but then it's the opposite. Then we have the pass metrics here, pass per 90 and pass percentage. That's just how many successful passes you have and what kind of accuracy. For me, pass percentage here doesn't really necessarily tell you how good of a passer. It's more maybe like which risk you're taking. If you're comparing it to how much you play the ball forward, you get more of an understanding like, okay, this player has a high pass accuracy and then is playing the ball forward a lot. And then this is the distance. So like how progressive in distance per 90 are you? Like how much do you pass towards the opponent goal? And then we have some metrics here which like she's not the defender that
goes
high up the pitch and wins it a lot. She's not really intercepting and winning ground duels. And I think also the fact with the tackles here is it doesn't say that she's a bad tackler. Like this is more that she can also be very good at like standing in the right position, and like she doesn't need to tackle because she's controlling her opponent and making them not facing her with a take on or something like this. She's more like controlling their carry to go in the right way or pass instead. So this is also a good add-on for like something that the data says this. Can we look like, or you can just using the data and look up the failed tackle and like the tackle percentage ratio, or is it the way that is she a bad tackler or is she just not tackling much? Like that's important.
Yeah, and I mean we've spoken about the KPI tackles before. Also, is that sometimes it's good if you need a player that can tackle much, but I don't think that Chelsea have that. They don't play that type of football that they need her to tackle that much. Because also, as you mentioned, they usually have the ball in possession a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll make a new dashboard now. So dashboard is where you view your data. So I'll call it Playmaker TV episode 25. And
24.
Then 24, yeah.
24.
I was already on next episode.
Yeah.
And then we I still want to like have her spider from last year. I think that's a nice way to go. Like this, and we'll do Millie Bright. So here we have a spider, the same one that we already looked at before. And then I'll use a new spider here. That is, what did we call it? CB Hunt, right?
Yeah.
I'll just load it here. We have the spiders. So this was the spiders that I selected for Millie Bright. Now we can have, this is Millie Bright 23-24 for the 6 games that she played.
Yeah.
So this is not the same season, Millie Bright, but we can have it there as
looked quite good that too.
Yeah. And you can also see that it's a bit hard because it's like tilted, but you can still see that like she's right on average on carry prog dist. She's a bit above 22-23, but that's was one of the metrics where she performed less, or like where her role is less significant. So you can see like an expected threat 90, for example, the same where we know that Magdalena Eriksson last season was the one that generated the most threat of the Chelsea defenders. So like that was not really in a role as well. And you can see a similarity this season, although Magdalena Eriksson is not the one
so
doing that.
Now let's start with the question. Do we think that Nathalie Björn is covering up for Millie Bright during her injury?
By playing style, no. And we can look at that in just this way. I think I'm not sure if Nathalie Björn is. No, here it is. So now keep in mind that this is this season in Everton. She doesn't have 6 games in Chelsea yet, so which was the limit. But this is her in Everton. She's played in a team that is less dominant, of course, but you can see like from that she's threatening in an entirely different way. And her challenge percentage and aerials percentage, for example, that shouldn't be affected of her playing in Everton or Chelsea as much as some of the other KPIs, is not near the same level as Millie Bright.
No, exactly.
And so yeah, I think really that she's a different style of play, and I think she's a player that suits Chelsea in how they play, but I see her as another role. I don't know what her contract status was, but I think also it could be a matter of like maybe we can replace her with someone else, but Nathalie Björn, it's a good time to sign her. We can't wait.
I mean, also we have been very impressed by her in the Swedish national team as well. So this is like, but let's say now that you would go, because when you created the data set, you chose a lot of leagues. How would you do from here if there would have been like a possibility that Chelsea would have had to replace Millie Bright because of her injury? How would you have done when you have started your data scouting from here?
Yeah, really good question. So we go to center. Now I did a table. So sometimes I'm really quick here when I'm working because I'm so used to it. But I press table. So table is like the view where you can like look over. It's more of like, it's a spreadsheet basically where you just load your data. You can see. Oh shit! I switched page or something. Now I lost control of my.
Of everything.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world of a data scientist.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. Oh shit. Oh no, I know why. Oh. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
My cat lay down on my keyboard. I have like.
Everything can happen in a live stream.
So I have this Apple keyboard. It's really nice, but I didn't use it now. But it was behind my computer because I turned it around because as cats work, he took my seat because he wanted attention, and then I switched around. But then so he started taking control. So yeah.
Not bad.
Never mind. I'm used to it. So we'll see here. Actually, the thing with the keyboard has happened once before. So like when it happened now, it was not the first time. So yeah, this is a spreadsheet basically. We have 258 center backs in the spreadsheet. So now it's like always when you load it, depending on how many columns you have, it could be a bit messy. So what I usually do is that I start by just tidying it up basically. So I choose the columns where I don't need position now because all of them are center back. So it's like not that interesting. What I'm basically the most interested in is one column especially, and that's the mean KPI score. So now we have then I usually pin the columns as well, so the player columns. So we have it here, and then you can basically sort on this mean KPI score. So one thing is funny that no one is better at Millie Brighting than Millie Bright. That's one thing that we can keep in mind here. now I didn't include. I wanted to include the age column. I forgot to do that. We have a KPI called age,
Yeah.
and what we can do is that we can do like this. I'll say you have to remember to save. We can go back to data set and we can edit here, and we can press in age here, and then I'll just save it. So now it will like regenerate, and we can check it out later when it's when it's done. So because that could also be another. We can come back to age later. So now, Mia, you can help me besides from if we need to talk about age, but now I sorted on mean KPI score. And what is mean KPI score? So mean KPI score is the mean percentile of all the KPIs we have in our data set. So this is like a rating that you can design yourself that is it's averaging like which percentile the player is in all the KPIs selected. So it's not weighing them. So like, for example, we could say that, okay, yeah, Millie Bright is looking like this, but the KPIs that we're most interested in is these two areals, challenges, and past prog, for example. Let's say just like that. Then we can't weight them here. Like, so all the KPIs we're selecting are weighted the same. But we could, for example, if we don't want carry prog this to affect our center back because it's not that important, even if she's performing good or bad, we can just remove it. Also, if we want like Millie Bright 2.0, we could like add KPIs that Millie Bright is not necessarily good at, but that we would like our new Millie Bright to be good at.
New Millie Bright, yeah.
And carry prog this is something that I really like as a center back, because like some center backs, when you are in possession, it's like you want the center back to be a good passer, of course, like and calm with the ball, but also like when you get the ball to not just stop at the position you are, maybe turn around or and do the pass, even though if you're doing it fast, like if you have the opportunity, it's very nice with the center backs that take the ball and they progress it forward and then they pass it. And if they have the chance to like run in between a line of two strikers or whatever, they can like meet the pass and then progress with it. So center backs that are good in that metric usually have a high carry progress. So that's a favorite metric of mine when looking at center backs, being brave enough to progress or fast enough. Or
you have interesting names there now, like the players in Rosenborg and Brann from top serien in Norway.
Yeah.
I think that this is what you have to have in mind at the moment also is I mean, obviously the top teams from the leagues you chose, I mean, their players will be showing high on this. And we have Elisa de Almeida from PSG. But also you have the player there, Stine Ballisager Pedersen from Vålerenga. That's a Danish national team player playing in the Norwegian reigning Norwegian champions at the moment.
Yeah.
But then you see names here now like Sara, what, Herte? Does it say that? It's
Hørte, or
Herte. That's a new name for me, so that's quite interesting, I think. And she has played many minutes if you compare her to many other here.
Yeah, exactly. And so like if we look at her here, we will see that like she also has a very big spider, because the number here is correlating to the spider area. And usually I wouldn't say that spider area is necessarily like correlating to a good player or whatever, but now we're more looking at, we're using the spider not only to like look at which player is the best, we're taking the KPIs that Millie Bright are good at and looking for a player that has a similar role or similar characteristic to Millie Bright. We could have chosen other KPIs if we were looking at the Laia Alexandru replacement, for example, that we don't have here.
And also also now when you go down your list here now, is the first center back in the Women's Super League is Manchester City center back, and that's Alana Kennedy. Then you have Wubben Moy in Arsenal. That's the two players from the Women's Super League that looks a bit similar to, or the most similar to Millie Bright in that league.
Yeah, I would say that. If you would have asked me before, I would have said Ruben Moy.
No, I
Not
wouldn't
that.
have either, but she looks. The thing is that, I mean, I obviously have seen her as a very good passer before.
Yeah.
She has an eye for the game. Her perception and reading of the game is phenomenal. But the thing is that she has grown. So this is very interesting, and you could really see that. But what is not so similar about them is final third entries.
No, exactly. That's a big difference. And also, I would say what's the same with Sarah Hurte. Not saying that they wouldn't be a good match, but like you can see that they're mostly adding up to the passing style here, and although like Ruben Moy doesn't have the accuracy, but she is acting as much, has as high frequency in the air, like in winning duels. Her accuracy is a bit less, and then you can see that Sarah Hurte has a bit, like she's a bit less in aerials than Ruben Moy, but she has the higher challenge percentage, of course. But then also, like, now we're not taking into account like the level of the league here for Sarah Hurte.
Exactly.
I will say it again. We'll go back to, yeah, it's ready. So one thing that I would like to do here is that if we need to load this data set again. CB Hunt. And now we got the H column as well. So now we can see, for example, that I need to sort it. It seems like okay. So here, Sarah Hurte is 23, for example. So that's something that, like, Sarah Hurte could, for example, be. Now, maybe you could argue she's a bit old. I don't know, or she's not a bit old, dependent. But like, if you're looking at a player that has a very similar characteristic, it would be nice to just like, it could be, you don't really need to care at the league level the same. Like, for example, in Häcken, if we're looking for a replacement and then we find someone in a league that is further down than Häcken is playing at, women's or men, but they're very similar to the kind of play we want. Then if they get the time to adapt, they could probably be a really good fit, because like we're looking at the characteristics, and the characteristics at the same level is not, maybe or a high level, we maybe can't afford it, or it's not reachable. But to find a player at a lower level and then develop them to be better at everything, it could be a great fit. So, for example, now I'm not saying Sarah Hurte is the case, but if we talk about Sarah Hurte, if they would think that she's the new Millie Bright, you could have signed her in this window, and then you know that, let's say, Millie Bright plays another year or something, or you sign her in the summer, another 1 year and a half. Then when she goes, you have the replacement, because then she's been like acting behind and also learn from the new player.
Can I ask you a question now? Would you, in this stage of scouting, like if we have this information we have now, and then let's just say that we have seen just the data of Sara here, would it add something to the knowledge that we need to scout her further, to look at how Vålerenga is playing compared to Chelsea?
Yeah, I would say so. Like the KPIs are in some way representing, like they're or they are affected by their style of playing. But for example, you could look at pass networks for the both teams here in the platform. You could also look at the team spiders and so on to get an understanding on like how similar Chelsea and Rosenborg are in the style of play. And I think that I would say that if the characteristics are similar to Spider, then that could be good enough. But when it matters of adapting time, I would say that when you're recruiting from lower level, the best thing is if the system is really similar, because then not a lot will be new. But if you play in a more, I would say, for example, if we would look at the defensive metrics here, since the trend is maybe that a lot of good teams want center backs that mainly are good with the ball, because you're having ball more than you're defending. I'm not saying all teams are recruiting, but it can be the more likely skill to weigh over. So if you would look at the defending skills, then maybe you would have center backs that plays in teams that are not as dominant, and then it would be a factor like how can we make sure that she becomes as confident as Mia Bright, or it could be how could we have like also. I think for a fact that Chelsea, when they play Millie Bright next to another, you have like a certain role. You don't maybe want two centre backs that are good at the same. You want like one more defending leader, and you want one player that could be. But in the ideal world, maybe you want two centre backs that are the best at both. But that could be hard to find.
But it's kind of interesting when you look at the list that you have there now, that there aren't many like young center backs playing in the top teams, if you know what I mean now.
No.
By that, from the leagues that you did scout. So it's easy to see now. I think this is very interesting now, because you can see now if you look at
should I? Okay, I'll do that later. Yeah.
Top serien here now is and actually because there's one of our players, Emma Östlund in Linköping. You have Damallsvenskan and Top serien as probably your go-to if you want to seek young talent outside of England, obviously.
Yeah, because if you don't care about what it would cost Chelsea or any of these players, I mean, for example, Erik Almeida that plays in PSG, if she is a free agent this summer, then maybe she could be a really good fit, or even an older player as well, like Vanessa Gilles. But if we go to here, like one thing that we could add just to reduce this table is we can do an age filter. So for example, let's say that we want a future player that we want to have the time to adapt. Then maybe we want a player that is younger than, we can start with 25. So then we remove all the players that are older, and then we still have this mean KPI score. So then we can see, for example, that Emma Östlund is the second best. So if we remove Wuben Moy, and then we I don't need to scroll, I can just press the letters here. We look at Emma Östlund instead. So we have her in blue. Then we can see that she's like on the carry prog list, my favorite metric. She's really good. And then also the expected threat prevented. She's all like the low, and that's the low defending. So like stopping attacks in your own box, or like preventing through balls. And
I know why now, because since she plays in Linköping, I know that she is the center back in our back three. So she never goes as high up the pitch as our two other center backs.
Oh yeah.
That's her role, like. So that's also very interesting when you look at it, because we know that now Chelsea plays with a back four. I'm not sure about Rosenborg, but that's also something to take into consideration when looking at it.
Yeah, definitely. And if we look at this list, I maybe would like to, so like here, I would say from this, like this is just we haven't spent much time. This is just a short start. So then from this, like if you look at the players under 25, then Sara Hurte, Emma Östlund, Martina Östenstad, Brann is also in the quarterfinal of the Champions League. Those three centre backs that have played like a lot, almost like their entire season, and they are below 25 if that is the requested age limit. This would be three great names that I would analyze further, like how their teams play if I don't know that. Also like look at different KPIs. Also look at their like not just this season. I would look at their season before, like look into their resume a bit, like look at the previous seasons, because it could be interesting to see that. For example, Sarah Hurta maybe played for this, but before she played for another team that played more similar to Chelsea, how did she look then? Like, of course, she is a player that could have developed, but it's nice to see like a career path. Or sometimes you played in a national team that plays more similar to the club, but it's fewer games, but that could be interesting. So I would look at like more data on these players based on this list. And also I would maybe already now, depending on how loaded my colleagues are, I would send these names to the other scouts in the team. Like, look at them.
This is like what we did this episode now is we just scratch a bit on the surface on how you can do when you scout players by data. But what I do think that this really shows is what you said right now about how do we progress in a process where we scout a new center back. Yeah, like you just said, we have decided we want a young and upcoming talent as a center back, perhaps, and then you send these 3 names to maybe video scouts, and then you move further in your scouting process. But this is actually like how you do when you work. And when I say you, I really mean you, Jesper, because you work like this with Beko Häcken, for example, both in the men's team and in the women's team. Obviously, as always, we tend to just scratch surface in these episodes. But what I do think now is that we should actually move on with this in the next episode.
Yeah, so I agree.
You save this dashboard, and now we move on in our center back hunt next week. Not next week, maybe, but next episode.
Next episode, yeah.
And then we move further to just to provide anyone watching this the real use of Playmaker when moving further.
Yeah. It was really fun. I could have spent even more time, but it's a nice thing. We can look at the team stats and like their games. We can also use some advanced metrics to look at how they performed against different teams and so on. So
and what I said is that we could, because you said it yourself, we could go back and look at, okay, how does Rosenborg play? What's their style of play compared to Chelsea? Even if they're in different leagues, what do they want to achieve when they have the ball, and what do Linköping want to achieve? Obviously, I know that also, like with Beko Häcken. But now we have these 3 names to really work with in the next episode.
Yeah, really good.
And with that, we're saying goodbye this time.
We're saying goodbye this time, and see you in 2 weeks approximately. Reach out in the meanwhile if you have any questions, and take care.